Hey everyone, it's James from Nostalgia Talk here, and like most of you Sesame Street fans out there, I am still processing my emotions on the recent passing of former Sesame Street human cast member Emilio Delgado, who played Luis. Now, I've been in Vancouver for the last week. I'm back home now, but I've been in Vancouver for the last week, and while I was away, I was around the city, and I saw it on Instagram that Emilio Delgado passed away, and I was like in shock, just wow. And Emilio was one of my favorite people. I know that I never got to interview him on Nostalgia Talk. We had talked about it before, but we never got around to it. Yeah, he was definitely one of my favorite people that I've had a conversation with. We had talked on social media a bit. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of my favorite moments of conversations with Emilio Delgado, and also some of my favorite Luis moments from Sesame Street. And I think I'll start with this one. There was one episode where, the way I remember it was, Luis and Big Bird, they were in the Fix-It shop, and Luis says to Big Bird, "I'm going down the corner to pick something up, so I'm going to leave the shop. Do you want to come with me?" Now, the reason that is the first thing I brought up is because that's me, basically. Like, whenever somebody in my family or somebody that we're close to is going to run an errand, I usually always want to tag along. I don't know why. I think it's because I like to walk so much. And so, like, if my mom is going to downtown Halifax, I live in the suburbs. If my mom's going to downtown Halifax, she's like, "You want to come with me?" I'm like, "Yes, I do." Big Bird declined Luis's invite. He was like, "It's awful cold out." And Luis is like, okay. You can stay, but I need you to do something for me. And Big Bird's all excited because he's like, "Oh, I'll do anything. I'll fix anything." Luis is like, No, I don't want you to help me. I don't want you to fix anything. What I want you to do is make sure that nobody comes in the store. No matter who it is, don't let them in the store at all while I'm gone. And Big Bird, being the kid that Big Bird is, takes that kind of literally. When Luis comes back, it's like, "But you told me not to let anyone in the store." But Luis didn't seem to, lose his patience over that. Even when Oscar was screwing with him, I never saw him get angry. And it showed the kind of warm person that Emilio Delgado definitely was in the conversations that we had. Like, I remember one time, he was doing a live stream, a GalaxyCon live stream, and I was going to be in the virtual audience. And he posted something to Facebook on it, and I left a comment. "I'm so excited for this." And he actually responded to that. He said, "Right on, James!" And my family was right there. I just kind of smiled at that. I was like, "Aw, I just heard from Emilio Delgado." And I remember not too long after that, this is going to show you the kind of generous person that he was. The latest Sesame Street documentary, Street Gang, which I highly recommend. It's the best Sesame Street documentary ever. It was going to be premiering at the Sundance Film Festival virtually. My family tried to get in to watch it, but they weren't allowing anyone from outside of the United States in, which kind of sucks because we were looking forward to it. It's a great documentary, though. And Luis posted something about it, and I was like, "Yeah, my family tried to get in, but they're not letting us." And he actually helped out. We didn't end up seeing it at the Sundance Film Festival, but he actually went out of his way to give advice as to maybe what we could do. He's like, "Maybe try getting a hold of somebody and they can help you, or you can just wait until it's streaming." And I was like, "I think I'm going to do that." And it was worth it because it's a great documentary. Another favorite Luis moment of mine, this is actually an interesting little story. I had a moment in college where I started to freak out. I don't remember why, but I remember I was very nervous and I was freaking out, and my classmates were right there. And my best friend Sean, you guys probably have heard me mention Sean many times. She lives overseas. Oh, by the way, Sean, happy belated birthday. But anyway, so I talked to Sean about it, and she's like, "What usually calms you down? Have you ever tried counting out of order?" And I thought that was interesting, and I had remembered an early Sesame Street episode featuring Emilio Delgado, where Luis was, I think, babysitting Elmo, and he's kind of working on his computer. He's got a book in his hand. I think he was putting together like a budget or something, and says to Elmo, "Okay, Elmo, I need you to take a nap." And nothing that Elmo tried in order to nap was working. He was not tired, and he says to Luis, "Well, why don't you read a story? You know, the book that you have there." And Luis is like, "Oh, Elmo, this isn't a storybook. I'm just taking all the numbers out of it and putting it into the computer." And Elmo said, "Well, maybe it can help me fall asleep." And so Luis was reading the numbers out of order. So that's what I associated with counting out of order. So I used that, because he's reading it like $99, $400.39 or something. And, you know, it's just counting out of order. That's the way that I kind of used Sean's advice. Not too long ago, she actually tested positive for coronavirus. She's fine now, but I was really concerned because, you know, she's my best friend in the whole wide world. And I remembered an episode of Sesame Street where Maria had to go to the hospital because I think I remember she was in a lot of pain, and so she had to go to the hospital. And Big Bird, Telly, and Gabi were really, really worried about Maria, like really concerned. And Luis just comforted them through the whole thing. And again, that shows the kind of caringness that Luis had, and the warm person that Emilio was. I was just saying to Norman Stiles, Emilio was one of my favorite people, and Norman said, I can see why. I can see why he was one of your favorite people. There was a series of episodes talking about medical care. There was a series of episodes where Luis broke his arm, and he was trying to do everything with a broken arm. And I actually talked to him once about that because he was in a cast. And I said to Emilio, "Was that cast uncomfortable?" It's like, I've never been in a cast, but you don't really have much freedom of movement when you're in one. So I was like, "Was that ever uncomfortable?" And he's like, "No, I could slip in and out of it easily." So that's lucky. So yeah, there was a series of episodes where Luis broke his arm. And sometime later, Telly broke his arm, and Luis was there. And he just reminded Telly, you know, I had this feeling when I broke my arm. And so the episodes were, you know, somewhat done the same, you know. And again, Luis taking Telly to the hospital to examine the arm, that shows that caringness. That absolutely 100% shows that caringness. I actually have a CD with me here, and there's a song on it that Emilio sang with Elmo. One of my very favorite Sesame Street songs, actually, Tu me gustas, which is Spanish for I like you. And yeah, I really do love that song. And their performance of it on this album is probably my very favorite performance of that song at all. Just because, you know, it's really bouncy and upbeat. And I really like the intro where Luis says to Elmo, "Hola," and Elmo's like, "Don't know what that means." And Luis explains, "Well, that means hello in Spanish." And Elmo says, "But Elmo doesn't know any Spanish. Can we still be friends?" And Luis is like, "Yes, of course we can still be friends." You know, that just makes me smile. I remember last year on Emilio's birthday, I messaged him on Facebook, and I'm loading it up. I said to him, "Happy birthday, hope you're having a good day." And he said, "Thank you, James, I did have a nice birthday." And that was, you know, that was a very, very nice response. And I'm gonna say it again, it was nice of him to try to help us get into the Street Gang screening. He did not have to do that. He absolutely did not have to do that. But he did. And, you know, that's really kind of him. One of the other things I always liked about him that showed his caringness, I made a post once on social media about Jerry Nelson. And some of you probably know who Jerry is. For those of you who don't, Jerry Nelson was the Count on Sesame Street. He's not with us anymore. I made a post about Jerry a while ago, and Luis liked it. You know, he wasn't tagged in it, but he still liked it, and you know, I appreciated that. And I remember when I posted something about Ed Asner. You guys probably know that story about when I met Ed Asner, because I've talked about it on here before. And I posted my Ed Asner story, and Emilio actually left a comment on it. And I'm looking for it now so I can read it to you. Okay, here it is. Wonderful story of meeting Ed Asner. He was such a pro and real mensch, also a true activist into his 90s. I played Ruben Castillo, national editor for 19 episodes on the Lou Grant Show, when Sesame Street was off season. I have always had the highest regard for Ed Asner. Well, as you can see, I've always had one of the highest regards for Emilio Delgado. He was definitely one of my favorite people. He was so warm and kind, and that definitely showed in, because on Sesame Street when he played Luis, I always saw him smile. I just got reminded looking at this CD cover, I just was reminded of another thing I really liked about Luis. There was one episode where he was teaching Rosita how to play guitar, and that ended up becoming a regular thing on Sesame Street, Rosita playing guitar. So now, that's what I think of whenever I see Rosita playing guitar, I think, hey, Luis taught her how to do that. I think my favorite Sesame Street episode ever, like if I had to pick just one, my favorite would probably be, and Luis was featured very, very heavily in this one. It started with him in the fix-it shop, and there's a little girl there, and he says, I'm tired, I'm just gonna go take a coffee break. And, he's communicating in Spanish and English with her, and just says, could you do me a favor, answer the phone? I don't know Spanish, so I can't really speak Spanish. But either way, so he goes to take a walk, and there's Sam the Robot going by. Anybody remember Sam the Robot? That was such a cool looking character. And, they exchange hellos. Luis exchanged hellos with Mr. McIntosh. And there's one little girl there with a balloon, and Luis is like, oh, we should tie that to your wrists because it might fly away. And he actually took the time to tie a balloon to this little girl's wrist so it didn't fly away. It flew away, and David ended up catching it. But still, just the fact that Luis stopped and did that, that showed that real caringness in him. And that's really nice. Later on in that episode, Luis played another big role. He was with kids in the fix-it shop, and they were looking at all these old tools. And as they're looking through it, he's like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna make something out of these things, and it's gonna be a surprise. So you kids go and play, and then I'll call you when it's done. And so it cuts to a segment, and then after the segment break, Luis brings the kids back in, and he's like, okay, so out of all this cool stuff that we found, I made something, and it was a bird, like it was a sculpture, I'll say sculpture of a bird out of pliers and buckles and hinges and bolts. It was really cool and very creative too, I also think very fondly of the relationship between Luis and Maria, their relationship and them getting married. Because I wasn't born when they got married. So when I saw that episode, it was actually really, really nice. And then, of course, they had a child. And I still remember the episode in which Maria went into labor. That's another one of my very favorite episodes. And one of the reasons that I liked it so much is because when Maria goes into labor, basically everyone on Sesame Street is there to be as much help as they can. Gordon and Susan are there to be as much help as they can, and the Count and Telly are staying over with them. Big Bird's helping out, even Oscar, who is very hesitant to help out because he likes to start up a confrontation in which he doesn't want to help, is offering to help out. And what I really liked about that one is that it's all of the Sesame Street characters just there, being friendly. That's, and to me that's what I have to say about that, It's a lot of good Luis moments from Sesame Street because, Luis was on the show for years. I just thought of one from very early on where he brings Cookie Monster the letter M, and Cookie Monster says, do you know what letter M reminded me of? It reminded me of cookies. And Luis is like, wait. This is the letter M. The word cookies begins with C. So, how can the letter M make you think of cookies? The Cookie Monster says, everything makes me think of cookies. And Luis is just going with the flow. So yeah, that's my little tribute to Emilio Delgado, Luis from Sesame Street. Again, one of my favorite people. He was a very kind and generous, warm person. Maybe some of my favorite Luis moments from Sesame Street, and I'm sure there's many others that I'm probably forgetting. But maybe some of my favorites or some of your favorites as well. And I want to hear some of your favorite Luis moments from Sesame Street. And if you knew Emilio, then leave a comment if you have a favorite memory of Emilio, or if you have a favorite memory of Luis, the character Luis. Because I'm sure that there's a lot of good ones, and everything I've seen about him has, everyone's always said he was so warm and kind and generous. I can definitely attest to that. So yeah, hopefully you all have good memories of him like I do. And now, enjoy the following slideshow. Peace.